Hello, I'm Brett Gilliland, host of the Circuit of Success podcast, and here's what's coming up on the show.
I think there's a couple really practical neuro hacks that anyone can use. Okay, the first is, I think we've all heard it, but gratitude rewires your brain.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today I've got Wendy Sherwin Swire with me. Wendy, how you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good to be with you. You're calling in from Bethesda, Maryland. How's it going out in Bethesda, Maryland today?
Bethesda, Maryland is doing just fine. It's we've got a late fall, warm fall going on. I think a lot of parts of the country. So
amazing, isn't it?
Enjoyed it. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So people are in fine spirits. And
I saw a guy I connected to on Instagram this morning. He put on there that he was working outside on his back deck in shorts and a t-shirt. He's like, if in November in New York, if I'm getting shorts and t-shirt, I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's nice. So thank you for asking.
Absolutely. Well, you are, everyone knows you as the health benefits. Everybody knows, I should say, the health benefits of staying in shape physically, right? But there's also this little thing here. If you're watching, if you're listening, I'm pointing to my brain here. There's a lot that goes on right up in here. And so you are an expert on what I would say all things brain is the way I'm going to word it. But I think it's going to be awesome to have a conversation with you today about that stuff. But if you could, Wendy, I know you've been a global executive, a leadership coach, you're an author, a speaker, an applied neuroscience consultant. I mean, what's the backstory, right? What's made you the woman you are today?
Yeah, I love that question as a coach. It's a wonderful question. And I hope more people ask it of each other. So I think there's three things, Brett, that I want to emphasize. The first is I'm a really big proponent of the energy, emotional energy and positive contagion, really. And I really lucked out. I had a father who was, rags and just poor as dirt grew up, but he really had positive energy. He was a successful entrepreneur and just had a lot of joy in his life. So I want your listeners to really know there is neuroscience behind this, but your positive emotions are contagious, like the flu, like COVID. So super important. And I had that growing up. So I had a very much a role model of what that can do.
Right.
Fuel to success. The other thing I would say, there's a couple others. The other is, my story is I really wanted to be a diplomat, an economic diplomat, and work on a lot of issues about poverty. I mean, I was young, I was in high school and college, and I really thought I was going to solve poverty, like particularly in Latin American poverty and debt. I was really into it. And I actually trained. I did a stint on Wall Street to prepare me, and I actually got a master's degree to train as a diplomat in diplomacy school. Yeah, and I'm getting ready. I'm gonna go join the State Department or the World Bank. And my father, this beloved patriarch that I just spoke of, he got diagnosed with like stage 3 cancer. And I'm in my mid-20s, and it was a real point. It was a crossroads. I think we all, I'm sure you have, your listeners have, you reach a crossroads, like, do I do this or don't I? And a door in my life had to shut down, that I wasn't going to live overseas. I decided my family, being close to my sisters and my parents was important to me. Well, let's fast forward 15, 20 years later. I now work with those diplomats as a coach and as a trainer. So you just never know in life. You got to pivot. You got to, right now we call it words like adaptability, flexibility. But I can't just tell you, a door shuts down, you sort of catch your breath and you're just like, okay, what's going to open up? And the work I'm doing now opened up because I'm not a diplomat. And the last thing is what makes me sort of the woman I am today is obviously my family. Faith's important, values. But I think for me, because, of the podcast, follow curiosity. I'm insanely curious, and just that there's a lot of really cool neuroscience on that. But if you're curious, listeners, if you're curious about something, listen to that whisper, because that's what led me to, I left the field of wanting to be a diplomat. I studied hardcore science, economics and finance. It led me to the field more of business management, leadership, and now as a coach. It also led me to neuroscience. Someone mentioned something to me and someone gave me a book. And I just got so interested in the brain. So you just never, ever know what tidbit you're going to pick up in this podcast or in a book or talking to someone on a plane. You just never know. Follow your curiosity, Brett. So I hope.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's one of the reasons I continue to do a podcast, 5.5 years later, and you're the 308th person I've interviewed and had the privilege to interview, and you learn a lot. Right. But you do have to be curious, because I find the little nugget, right, that I can take up from everybody is a big deal. I mean, even as you're saying, I know this, your positive energy is contagious. I've said that a ton of times, but when you really slow down and look at it as contagious as getting COVID or the flu, right? We worry about that stuff, but we don't worry about our energy, do we? We don't think about that as much. So our negative energy is just as bad as as spreading the COVID or the flu, right?
100%. And there's really cool science on it and research on it that if you're negative, even if you think, I'm keeping it to myself, I hide my emotions, no one can tell, people can pick it up. Even on Zoom, people can pick it up. In person, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you're also known for techniques to train and rewire the brain to be more positive. So I think in today's world, right, we've got these cell phones that want to give us all the notifications and all the crap that goes on in the world and all the negativity. And it just gets to be a lot. And you turn on the TV, whatever it is. So what are some steps, some real, like the meat and potatoes type stuff that our listeners can take from this podcast that can help rewire the brain to be more positive?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you so much for asking. This is my favorite thing to talk about. I think there's a couple really, really practical neuro hacks that anyone can use. Okay, the first is, I think we've all heard it, but gratitude rewires your brain. Gratitude. So if you are a person, if something good happens in your day, a tiny little thing, like you get a really nice text from a friend, or your child or a friend smiles at you, or says something funny, or like today you look outside and everyone look outside your window. Is it a nice day, sunny, whatever it is? If you take that positive moment and hold on to it, this is called, it's a fancy term I'll throw out here, self-directed positive neuroplasticity. But what that means is, your brain has a built-in negativity bias. Let me rephrase that. You are built in to be negative. That is your wiring that we've had for hundreds of thousands of years. So you have to lay new neuronal tracks. So any little thing you do, there's like, hey, you know what? I'm talking right now to Brett and it's fun. I'm having a good time. Or I just have this really nice cup of coffee and I'm taking a sip from Starbucks and I'm just going to take 30 seconds and enjoy the coffee. You are laying tracks to be more positive. The other thing is, and this is another practice I give almost all of my executives who are my coaching clients, is at night, take a piece of paper, write down the 3 or 4 things that you are grateful for. If you can get to do 10, great. I encourage you to write, because you'll use a part of your brain, you'll activate the creative part of your brain, not keyboard it. But even if you don't have time to write it, you don't have a journal, keep a journal by your bedstand. But if you don't have time, even think about it. That act itself, the research has shown, helps. It just helps in so many different ways. And you are literally starting to rewire your brain. Try that for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, every day. I call it an appreciation audit. Audit your day before you go to bed. What do you appreciate? And for my parents, grandparents, family members, try doing that at the dinner table, or as you're taking your kid to a soccer game. Hey, what do we appreciate about today? Excellent practice. So what do you think of that one as a practical?
Well, I love that. And I use a daily planner that I've created. This is 20 years in the making in my career. And I've finally got it all in one booklet of things that I do. But it says right here, today I'm grateful for, right? And I start, the first thing I do when I get in the office, I write down 3 or 4 things that I'm grateful for. And it's hard, right? Because sometimes you're like, well, I mean, it's silly as it sounds, but I'm thankful for clean water, right?
Oh,
I mean,
great. Yep.
I'm thankful to be able to breathe, take a deep breath, clean air. But then there's part of me, it's like, God, am I not deep enough to think like all these things? But I think that stuff matters. But here's my pushback on that. So 1, I'm 100% a believer in it. Okay. I also have an exercise I do at the end of every calendar quarter. I look at every single picture I've taken on my phone and I write down exactly what I did and who I experienced it with in a brown journal that I have over here. So I'm a big believer in that. But what about the times you don't feel like that? You're like, ugh, I don't want to write down what I'm thankful for. I'm just pissed off and in a bad mood, or I don't want to do this, right? What advice do you have there?
Yeah. So what happens is this is even more important when you're feeling crappy. Okay. When you're tired, when you're fatigued, when you are worried about your finances or politics, whatever it is, right? So, or the state of the world. So I think what happens is when you are in a negative place, you're stressed about work, you're working hard, this and that's going on, you never feel you have enough time, you're producing a very powerful chemical in your brain called cortisol. Very, very powerful. By just taking a moment and doing something positive, you're actually creating a different neurochemical. Okay. It doesn't override you can't have the cortisol and the norepinephrine or the dopamine or the serotonin. You can't have the feel good chemicals.
They can't coexist.
They can't coexist. They can go one right after each other. So you are literally playing with powerful, powerful chemicals in your brain. So that's why the practices work. So it's not just kumbaya and let's light candles and feel gratitude.
Right.
This stuff is literally changing chemicals in your brain. So I would encourage people just one thing, and it could be, yeah, you know what? I got out of bed today. My favorite quote is from Pitbull, the rapper, every day above ground is a good day.
That's right.
Could be that. It could be, the fresh air, or, what, I had a bed to sleep on, or I had a meal tonight. So any little thing doesn't have to be deep, big, I'm grateful. It can be the same thing every day. The idea is that you literally are laying new neuronal tracks in your brain. That's the power of this stuff.
Wow. So it's literally like a slow drip. I mean, it's like a drip of actual chemical that comes out and seeps out of our body or out of our brain into our bodies and so on. So that's amazing. So gratitude. Okay. So that's one. What's the second one?
I think another neurohack is the brain has multiple different regions. It's got that primitive, we've called it the lizard brain. It's really not accurately, that's not 100% accurate, but it doesn't matter. It's a great metaphor you can use. And then you have an emotional brain, which is a little higher up. And then you have your, if all the listeners take your hand and put it on your forehead, that right behind your forehead, that's your executive functioning. I call that your C-suite brain, right? So even by asking yourself a question, you need 30 milliseconds. That's like 1/1000th of a second to move from that reactive, primitive, fight or flight brain to more of your executive thinking brain. So when I'm in a really stressful situation, so I had a situation a couple of years ago on a business trip, my laptop got stolen. I was in a panic. And I just remember sitting down, I was at the hotel when I realized it. And I'm like, okay, what part of my brain am I in? What part of the brain am I in? Am I in my reptile reactive brain, or I'm in my thinking calmer brain?
Yeah.
And just ask yourself a question. And the key takeaway is to buy time. You want to buy time from moving from the lizard to the C-suite.
And so that lizard is, tell me more about that.
So your lizard brain, and again, it's just an analogy. We do share these parts of the brain, the lower deep stuff. So if listeners take your neck and go to that part between your neck where your head is kind of attached to your body, right back there, that's way deep stuff back there, brain stem. It is the part of your brain that controls all autonomic functions. Everything you do in your brain is like breathing and closing your eyes. And you don't have to worry about your heart beating, do you?
No.
That part of your brain takes care of it. It's all these functions and it's also the part that, will kind of take care of the fact that your heart pumps, your blood pumps, if that's the part of the brain, if you're thirsty, what do?
Take a drink of water.
100%. Great. Perfect answer. If you're hot, you take your sweater off, that kind of stuff. So that's the part of the brain that when you are totally triggered and stressed out and like kind of it's linked to the emotional part of your brain, which sits on top of it. But that's the part of your brain that's going to react to protect you. So you've got a 24-hour ADT alarm system in your brain to protect you. That's the part. So you just got to kind of move away from it and to move to your thinking brain. And that's what the question does. Well, what part of the brain am I in? Okay, let me catch a deep breath. It's going to be okay.
So it's kind of just a rewiring, recalibrating, if you will, saying, okay, I know I'm in the wrong department, if you will. Now it's time to get in the right department and think
Love
different.
it. Yep. I'm in the wrong part of the store. I got to get to the right part of the store. That's right. The right part of the house.
What are some things that we can do, personally at home or at work to trigger brain stuff? I mean, whether that's reading, whether it's, I play Wordle, right? I find that if I can kind of do the Wordle thing before I go to bed, I don't know if it's actually working or not, but seems like I get a pretty decent night's sleep, and it's not just because of Wordle, but so those things, if it's sitting in a sauna for 20 minutes, I mean, what are some things that we can do to help stimulate the brain from a positive standpoint?
Yeah, so I love that. Okay, a couple tips. One is your brain is something like 70% water, maybe even more. Drink a ton of water.
Yeah.
More water than you think. Okay. More water than you think. And I encourage my coaching clients, I'm like, are you drinking water? And they're like, I drink a lot. I'm like, I want you to double, listeners, I want you to double the amount of water you're drinking. That's going to
interrupt that. And so I love that. So again, in my journal, water intake is one of them. You've seen me
100%.
numerous drinks. And so what's funny is I wear this thing called a Whoop, if you've ever heard of that, but it's about the fight or flight type deal in your body and your stress and your water intake to sleep and everything really, your fitness. But I found it's crazy. I have worse sleep. If I have 7 to 12 glasses of water a day, I have better sleep than if I have less than 7. But if I have greater than 12 glasses of water in a day, my sleep is actually worse.
Yeah. Well, you're calibrating to your body. Probably you may have to get up in the middle of the night and do a little bio break there. Exactly. But I think for me, you want to flush out some of those nasty, mean cortisol, those chemicals, those that when you're triggered, that chemical we just talked about, the water will flush it out. Yeah. And that's really important. I'm glad you talked about sleep. If you want to increase positivity of the brain, we could do a whole rest of the session on sleep hygiene. Sleep is a superpower. It's not, it is just like, it is literally like taking kryptonite or like whatever, it's like super, you want to supercharge your emotions, your work performance, your cognitive performance. Sleep is critical, which means about, half an hour. I love the fact you're doing Wordle or you're reading, you've got to get off your screens. Everyone knows this, we've heard this, but there is science behind it. You've got to start to quiet your brain. Mm-hmm. Our brains are so active. They're so bombarded. So a lot of it is, the third is daydreaming, taking a break, looking out the window, taking a walk with the dog, unplugged. It is not a waste of time. You are not being inefficient. You're actually taking great care of your brain and letting certain networks in the brain just give you your best thoughts. So where do you do your best thinking, Brett?
I do mine in the morning when it's maybe before everybody's up and I can just sit in a quiet room and just chill by myself. I'm a big believer now in these saunas. I just got a sauna and it's been incredible. And in the time in there, because there's nothing to do, right? You're just sitting there. And so I find those are my two spots.
I love that. A lot of my senior executives do their best thinking in the shower. When your body is relaxed. It is not a coincidence. When your body's relaxed, your brain can relax. You'll have your ahas, you'll have creative insights. So the sauna, anything you can do, hot water, cold, hot bath, anything that you can do just to start to feel more relaxation in your body will allow your brain to make connections and relax. It's not a coincidence. A lot of people get do you get our best insights sitting in front of a computer doing email? Yeah. Most people I know don't.
Yeah. And I call that strategic think time for me. It's STTs. If you look at my calendar, every Wednesday, it's going to be on there from 1 to 2:30. And it's me, the black journal and an ink pen and no technology. And I've even found that it's hard. I always felt like I was failing early on when I was doing this. I've been doing it since July of 2005, so a long time, but you can still feel like you're failing because, I need to be doing this, or I need to be doing that, or I got to make that call. I got to send that email. But I'm telling you, it's been the best use of time, and the people I coach and then my clients and whoever, those are the things that we always go back to. How much alone time are you spending just thinking with an ink pen and a piece of paper?
Yeah, I love that. And if that seems hard for you, if you need to take a walk, Nature, getting outside, fresh air, fresh oxygen, anything where you're just letting yourself unplug and allowing yourself that freedom, huge spikes in productivity. So those are great best practices. I think, just to get back to your question, the other thing is really monitor who you hang out with and your news intake. Because remember, the brain has that pre-wired negativity bias. So, what are you consuming? Are you consuming like junk food? We know not great for your body. Well, junk inputs, people who are negative, who are bringing you down. Always, are you doom scrolling? That stuff will take an effect on your brain. You've got to be a really, and the listeners of your podcast they're listening for a reason. They're success oriented. They're motivated. They want to get better at their game. Really monitor what you're feeding your brain.
Yep. So I'm hearing gratitude, water intake, sleep, daydream, monitor who you hang out with in your news intake. These are, phenomenal, right? You can stop the podcast right here and say, there's 5 takeaways, listeners. Go do a test and see how you're doing on that. Right. So speaking of tests, I'm going to give you a test right now, if that's okay. Like, oh, nobody likes tests.
I love school. No, it doesn't stress me out. It makes me happy.
The circuits of success are your attitudes, your belief system, your actions that you take that ultimately get results in your life. So what's one thing that you would say from an attitude, and maybe it's everything we just talked about, can you scale yourself from a scale of 1 to 10, how you're doing right now, currently? How are you doing right now as Wendy Sherwin Swire doing on your attitude?
Oh, I'm really lucky. I don't want to say a 10 because I don't know. I'm in the high 9s.
Yeah.
I have, the things that I'm recommending are things I have personally used. I lost my parents at a young age. I wasn't like this. If you had talked to me 10, 15 years ago, I have trained myself to have a positive attitude, to rewire my brain, to do all of these practices. So I live in like a state, for me, in a state of gratitude. My goal is to live in a state to be in service to others and be in a state of joy and gratitude as much of the day as I can. So
that's amazing.
But I had to go through, I had to train myself to do this. I wasn't like, oh, this woman kind of so Pollyanna and she woke up, was like this as a child. And the answer is no, I wasn't.
See, I love that. And that's why I want to peel the onion layer back there, because I think there are people that believe that, right? They say, oh, Wendy's just always been positive. Brett's always been positive. Well, maybe, but I think there's a lot of training and a lot of work I've done to get to that point. And it sounds like you have as well.
Yeah. I really leaned in heavily at the start of the pandemic on this field of mental resiliency, mental fitness, and really doubled down on it. How to make sure the ratio of, are you in positive emotions or negative emotions? Which percentage are you in throughout the day? And really up that game. So I would say I'm pretty high in attitude. I don't want to say 10. That's a little arrogant, but I'm in the 9s probably.
You're feeling good. Yeah. So the next one is your belief system. And let me kind of give you some pre-work on this one. And so your belief system, I am convinced that, doing the professional world for 2+ decades now, I know my belief systems, and I know that I can get into a debate, not an argument, but a debate with people on things that I know work that maybe somebody else doesn't believe. If I were to ask you 1 or 2 things that you believe to your core that will make you successful, what are those things?
Okay, my belief system. One is you don't have to be the sharpest tool in the shed. You can outwork anybody.
Yeah.
And you can
love that.
You can, I'm really smart. I mean, I work hard. There are people way smarter than I am, but I have a really strong work ethic. So go back to your fundamental skills. And, we know so many of your guests that you've listened to, you just keep at it and you keep at it. So for me, I think that's a really big belief. I think the other key belief is really get aligned to your values and what's most important to you. And, what are you going after in life? For some people, it's power, money. Others, it's learning, making a difference, impact, family, whatever it is. Get clarity on that and stick to your true north, because everyone else might have a different one. It doesn't mean that they're better or worse. They're just different. As when you've got your feet on the ground and you know your true north, then you can get there. But if you're looking around, like, is it this? And I'm agnostic. It can be, I as a coach, I have absolutely no value judgment.
Yeah.
If someone wants this or that, good for them, as long as people know.
Yeah. So the third one is action. So we got to take action. I'm a big believer in that I can sit here and have the best business plan known to man. I can be the best, whatever. I can know more about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, investments than anybody in the world. But if I don't take action, it doesn't freaking matter, right? It's like I always say, people, the hockey people, I'm not a huge hockey guy, but if I had the best slap shot in the world, but I couldn't ice skate, I'm a terrible hockey player, right? Yeah. So if we don't take action, so when you hear that word action, one or two things, what comes to mind? And then if I followed you around every single day, what is, again, one or two things that I would see day in and day out that Wendy's doing?
Yeah. Well, let's pick up with your sports metaphor, because I'm a big sports fan. I have two boys and my husband. So we do a lot of sports talk here. I think there's one is not only can you take action, but let's go to the famous, I'm not sure which hockey player said this, but you've got to take the shot on goal.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to take the shot on goal. So are you taking shots on goal? You got to try.
Yeah. Wayne Gretzky, right? You miss 100% of shots you don't take.
Right, 100%. So, are you taking a shot? And so go back to that quote, which is, are you taking a shot? And if it fails, it fails. You're going to learn more in failure. I think that's the first. And getting comfortable. The most successful people fail and they learn from it and they grow from it. I am not as successful as I am because of all of my successes. It's because all the things that I didn't do or I didn't learn. Yes. So please start taking those shots on goal and realizing the fear is coming from that limbic reptile brain. So that's, you're wired to do that. So you've got to overcome that. I think the second, what would you see day in, day out? I take my morning rituals really, really seriously. Whether that be morning, meditation, a little bit of prayer, my gratitude practice, working out, getting some exercise. I get outside, take the dogs out. So that's why to do that, I got to go to bed early, which means I really, really prioritize sleep.
Yeah.
I sleep a lot. More people can't believe I get a lot done. I'm super productive. And because of those two things.
What time do you go to bed at night?
I'm winding down. I'm trying to wind down by 9 and read it. Yeah. Night, I'm lights out at 10. If I want to get up at 5:30 or 6 and I need a lot of sleep because I know the brain science. And I am a fanatic about sleep, particularly for, folks, your listeners who have kids. You got to get your kids off devices so they can learn the next day. So even my kids are in their 20s. They know, they're like, oh, I sleep more than a lot of our peers. So
okay, well, I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask how old your kids are and how that's going. So I've got 4 boys. I got a 17, 15, 12, and 8. Woof. And, without naming names, some are better than others at sleeping and getting to bed, right? So how do we do that? Help us parents right now. They've got this device. They want this dang device, right? Other than just obviously being the parent, we just go take the device and put it away into another room. Other thoughts on that kind of stuff, and how do we help our kids sleep more and get off these devices?
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure you've had guests or experts on this, like from parenting, but my experiences was teach them the brain science early. They're like, yeah, you want to be good. You're on the hockey team or the soccer team, or you want to be good at school. Yeah. You don't get sleep, you dumb down, period. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let them know. I mean, kids are smart and savvy today. The second thing is to say, that device of yours is addictive. It's as addictive as any. We don't want our kids doing bad drugs, do we? Or drinking too much. No different. So just say, hey, you're addicting your brain. And from TikTok videos, they are designed to be, and they're fun. They're designed to addict you. So you got to let kids know you are fighting upstream by not, texting all night long. And again, I always link into what's important to you. Yeah. What's important? These kids are very sophisticated. And a lot of kids, it's being social. Okay. So again, some of it is, I think, a parent's duty to just say, hey, but a lot of it is, when you're with your family, my best tip is as a parent is we did not have devices when we had mealtime. Even if we're grabbing a car, even if we're grabbing something from Starbucks, you got to drop some off to a soccer game. It's like there's certain periods of the day. And even if all you can do is like a Saturday night family or dinner, and I'm telling you, like just eating pizza, no devices, and your kids won't like it, but they'll get used to it, and they're going to fight you. But it's like that's just our rules, and you have to not do it. Okay, folks, you have to not be. Well, who is that? Like, who is the hockey player who said that you just don't go on? Or what did Brett say? What's his bet? You don't get on the screen to check a fact. You just don't do it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. And it's hard because you're right. They are addictive. And, you even find yourself, I don't know about you, but like sometimes you do just want to just veg on the brain and scroll and look at some of those funny videos. And, but it can suck you right in, can't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, the science it's real on that. I mean, look, it's fun, but just put a timer. So I got 10 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
And I always just say you'll never get that 10 minutes back in your life, but
Right.
that's okay. If you want to do it, I'm not, again, don't judge yourself. Just say, I'm going to let myself enjoy it. But it's understand that you are competing. Your little self-will is competing against billions of dollars from very, very sophisticated technology firms trying to draw you in. Okay, you're in competition. Yeah, you're in competition. And by the way, I am not a Luddite. Like I have social media, but I monitor everything is off my phone. No, I just am really, really a conscious. I'm a consumer of how I use it. So when I do Facebook or I'm going to update LinkedIn and tell people how much I love being on the podcast, I just do it in blocks and I'm intentional and then I stop. You got to train your brain, man. You got to train your brain.
Great. That's great. So the last one is results. So we've got a great attitude. We've got a belief system. We're taking action every single day. And now we have results. So when you think about that, I think I know the answer to this, but that's why I'll ask the question though anyway, is how do you focus on results for you personally or for your, clients?
Okay, that's a really, that actually to me is a pretty deep question because we're all going to define results differently.
Absolutely.
For some people, results is I do a good day at work, I finish at 5 and I'm with my family. Others, it's like, no, I want to achieve this promotion or milestones. So I think it's getting really clear what does success look like with your results? What are your benchmarks? What are your measures? What aspect of the result is going to make you feel successful? Yeah. So for many people, I find I've got a lot of clients who are very successful executives and they're starting to wonder, so then I just got to keep chasing, going to the next thing. And I'll say, what in that result, what is success? Like, what is it? What are you going after? That gets back to your question about, for me, know your values, know what you're going after. So I think for results, mine is pretty simple because I just want to make a positive impact in the world. I want to ignite positive change in the world for my clients, in my organizations, for individuals I work with. So I know I'm achieving results if I know I'm helping people.
Yeah.
And I'm in a field where I get to do that. So again, the more that you can tie into at the end of this day, let's go forward to go backwards, right? At the end of the day, one of the clients, it's a very powerful coaching exercise. And for your listeners, write your obituary now.
Yeah.
And a lot of coaches if you work, I don't do it with everybody. I won't do it with all my clients because they don't want to think about death or mortality, but write your obituary. Like, what do you want to be remembered for? Well, those are the results. Then make sure that you're doing it. So it's just really get clarity on what you want to achieve. And once you have clarity, a lot of stuff falls into place.
I like that. I like it a lot. Well, this has all been great. So a couple fun questions. I don't know. Do they have in Maryland, do they do the Powerball lottery thing?
They do. They do.
Okay. Well, I've never been a lottery person. I've never done it. We were in a gas station where I took my 3 older boys. We went to the Notre Dame football game this past weekend.
Fun.
We get to rush the field, which was pretty cool. Us and our, 2,000 closest friends. And I thought we were going to die during everybody's trying to get off the field. But anyway, we're on the way home and there's a sign that says $1.9 billion, right, for the Powerball. So me and the boys picked some numbers and we're going to, we keep telling ourselves we're going to wake up billionaires tomorrow morning. But anyway,
I'm rooting for you.
I'm rooting the billion. Yeah. So what's that?
I'm rooting for you and your boys.
Thank you. And so I just played the game with my wife this morning and then some guys at work. We went to lunch today. If you win the $1.9 billion lottery tonight, what's the first 2 or 3 things you would do?
Oh, I love that question. I'm going to give I have a really lucky life. What the first couple of things I'm doing? I'm going to give a heck of a lot of it away. I'm going to start a foundation for sure. What am I going to do? I'm probably going to buy a really nice house on the lake for my husband, Adirondacks, and I'm going to buy him a beautiful sailboat and kayak. I'll probably do some stuff. I'm probably going to do some stuff to like spoil my loved ones. But yeah. I do something. My husband is great. It's a
lot of fun though, isn't it? I mean, to think about, okay. I said today, literally at lunch, I said, I think I'm going to take $100 million and I'm going to pay everybody's house off in the firm. And I'm better be careful of this now, right? I'm going to hear all this and it's on record. We're going to pay everybody's house on the firm off. We're going to pay all my family's houses off, and then, give a ton of it away, but buy a house, a beach house in Watercolor, Florida.
Yeah, there you go. I'm getting a house for those listeners up in the Adirondacks.
There you go. I like it. If I steal your cell phone from you, what's the one thing that I cannot delete that you need to continue the life that you're living right now?
Oh gosh, my virtual admins information. Shout out to Katie. What do I need? I need my calendar. I do need my emails. Well, for productivity, I need those things. I think for just pure joy and to make sure I get all of that gratitude, it's the photos.
Yeah, I'm a big photo person myself. And what is it you wish you had more time to do, but right now in the season of life you're in, there's just not enough hours in the day?
Oh gosh, I love to move. I'd love to spend a little bit more time. I have a workout, but there's always more you can add if you had more time. And I'm an avid reader, and there's just way too many books. I probably have 10 books. I read multiple books at a time. I probably have 10 there. I spend a lot of time reading, so I can never, ever not read. I would do more of that.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Wendy Sherwin Swire. We will send people your way. I know you've also set up a link. I think I'm gonna have to get glasses here, but it's the swiresolutions.com/circuit-of-success-podcast /again. So we will put that in the show link. So thanks so much for setting that up, and we'll send people there. Where else can our listeners find more of you?
Yeah, well, I would encourage, this is a special page we created for listeners of Brett's show. It's https://swiresolutions.com Circuit of Success podcast. So there I have some questions and things just for podcast listeners, but you can always go to Swire Solutions. And
awesome.
Thank you so much. Wow. What fun.
Yeah.
It felt like 2 minutes. It was great.
Great conversation. Appreciate you being on the show, Wendy. And if you ever need anything in the future, please let us know.
Thank you. And thank you to all the listeners. It was a real privilege.